start drinking some of these beers or what?
Definitely. Let's get to it. So that leads us to our first pioneer, which
start with Anchor Brewing Company, which was
that was founded in 1965 by Fritz.
Right.
Maytag.
So and then it was completely taken over by Fritz in '69, and he took over sole ownership. There's a big story behind it. We're going to leave a lot of the footnotes of all these facts in the footnotes of our blog. So if you go to AmericanBeerTV.com, you can see all the information where we gathered all this from, and there's links and pictures and other videos and all that good stuff that goes along.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stories about Fritz, because he was from Maytag Appliances. Yeah. And he had quite a bit of money, so he was able to do some of this stuff. But he was one of the ones that got it started. So let's... so
this is a steam beer.
Yep.
So a steam beer is like kind of an amber ale, amber lager kind of fusion beer. So it's lager yeast that's brewed at ale temperatures.
Exactly.
So, which, if you smell this beer, it smells kind of similar to a lager. It has a little bit of that kind of sulfuric kind of smell to it.
That's definitely a very lager aroma.
Let's taste it.
It's got that lager flavor. It's light. It's crisp.
It's a good beer.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite beer.
No, that lager flavor, I have to admit, I'm not a huge fan of that.
Yeah. This is a great beer, and I think all of these beers have made it because they're good entry-level beers.
Yeah.
So, as you notice, a lot of these beers, if I pick this up, a lot of these beers almost have the same color until we get to the porter from Deschutes, obviously.
Exactly.
But I think these beers have allowed our generation to taste the entry level into craft beer.
Exactly.
They've allowed our generation to taste a new style of beer that breaks them away from the pale lagers.
Yeah, they're just...
It's like you just need something to stop it. You know what I mean? You just need to shake somebody something and stop it. Drink this.
Yeah, I mean you can generally see in this the ratcheting up of flavors over the years that have just expanded. So yeah, I mean you start off with if you compare any of these to a basic macrobrewery, you'll see that although this might not be a style that you want to drink regularly today, it was head and shoulders above the macrobreweries in terms of flavors for the time. So you really have to put yourself in the mindset of what was available at the time. So
next would be Sierra Nevada, which was... They started building Sierra Nevada by Ken Grossman, who is the founder of Sierra Nevada, in 1979. He didn't brew his first batch until 1980.
Right.
And I believe it was somewhere very close to the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. I'm sure the recipe's changed a little bit, but this is probably as close as it gets.
Exactly.
Really nice pale. It's got a little bit of chill haze. It's an unfiltered beer. It's unpasteurized. It's real beer.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is real craft beer. Little bit of hops on the nose.
Yeah. Yeah, you're getting the fruitiness of the ale yeast versus the lager yeast. When you put the ale and the lager right next to each other, you can really tell the big difference.
Really clean flavors going on in the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. It's a hoppy beer, but it's not real predominant. It's not. I mean, the beers that we're used to drinking nowadays are just so overly hopped. Yeah, it's great. I love hops. I'm a big fan of the hops. But this is again one of those beers that goes, wait, there's hops in this beer. Yeah, this is something that I've never had before. For me, when I first started drinking craft beer, I hated pale lagers. I never drank beer until my early 20s, really, because I didn't like beer. It just tasted gross. It tasted like dirty water. Until I had Sierra Nevada and then a couple other ones, Right. But Sierra Nevada was one of the first real beers that I got to try, and I was like, hey, I like beer because I like the flavor of hops. It has aromatics, it has caramel flavors, it has bitterness.
It has flavors. So, it has a lot more dimensions.
Complexity.
To it. Exactly. So, yeah, and it's a totally different animal than the basic stuff.
Soon after that would lead us to Samuel Adams, which was founded by Jim Koch in 1984. So he's kind of the same way, and we're all kind of talking about all these guys kind of share something in common. is that they wanted something better than was on the market.
Exactly.
So Jim was kind of at the same thing. He was like, his family had been in beer and the beer business for a really long time. Sam Adams' Boston Lager was supposedly an old recipe of his great-grandfather's or something like that he found in the attic or whatever. Great marketing strategy, by the way.
Yeah, how much that's marketing and how much is actually true, only Jim Cook knows. But, you know, and now we're going back to the lager. So this is what he calls a Boston Lager. And it's got a real, not much aroma to speak of, really. Maybe a tinge of hops in there.
Again, has that, a little bit of that tartness from the lager yeast.
Yeah. But it's...
I almost want to say, like a little sourness almost. Yeah. I think that's why I get turned off on
lagers,
pale lagers, is because they do kind of have that sour flavor. Even like modern pilsners and stuff like that. Pilsners are one of the few lagers that I'm really into, if anything. But like Helles lagers and things like that, I'm not a big fan of them.
Yeah, but I mean, even this, when you're looking at this, and you even compare it to Anchor Steam, it's actually got more of the malt characteristics and a little bit more hop characteristics, and not as much just plain old lager characteristics that the Steam Ale had. So it, again, was another level of flavor offerings that, you know, compared to what you had available at the time. So
yeah, people were like, it just tastes just like Anchor Steam.
Right, no, it's there. You can definitely tell the difference. You're getting more malt, you're getting more hops. So not by much, but it's there.
So East Coast, West Coast, and West Coast, by the way, completely dominated the craft beer market in the late 70s, early 80s. East Coast really didn't get started up really until Boston Beer Company came around. And then soon after that, the Matt family had been in the beer business for a long time. Let's see, this company is owned by Fred and Nick Matt nowadays. This is modern time. And their great-grandfather, somebody that came from Germany and started, I think it's Utica Club or Utica Brewing Company in Utica, New York. And they brewed pale lagers. Utica Club was a pale lager. They, you know, just made regular beer.
Yeah, so. and most of these old recipes, these old beer families that were around, came over from German immigrants that came over during the 1800s and got started off and using their own family recipes and whatnot. So they really brought a lot of know-how over to American beer. But let's give this.
So this is their biggest seller. This is considered an English style pale ale.
Okay.
It is very light, and not a whole lot of hops. I get a little bit of sweetness.
Yeah, I think that's from the malt. I think that's also some of the fruitiness that people talk about with ale yeasts. A lot of times we just over flavor ales so much, either with hops and India Pale Ales or with stouts or barrel aging or whatever, and the really subtle nuances of the difference between an ale yeast and a lager yeast get lost quite frequently. But you can really pick it up in a tasting like we're doing here. Light, clean, dry finish with that malt. It's a malty, dry finish.
Yeah, really clean flavors once again.
Yeah.
Very easily, it's very drinkable.
Yeah, these are all sessionable beers, really.
You could easily, you know, turn anyone who likes Sierra, you could say, hey, this is another pale ale. Easily turn somebody on. That's a great thing. Now that you've introduced somebody to a style that they like, you can say, okay, now there's all these breweries that have different tweaks on that one style, you know.
Exactly. I mean, if we were going to bust out and do a tasting between like Miller and Coors and really try to pick out flavor characteristics, not really. You would need to have a pretty sophisticated palate to really start pulling out nuances, because they're so similar and so light in flavor. There's virtually nothing there. But these ones all have flavor. They all have distinct flavors that sets them apart. And it's what makes it from, you know, if you have a macro beer drinker, he just goes, buys his Coors Light, goes, takes it home. He buys that one beer. He likes that one style. That's it. But when you get into craft beer, Now you start constantly choosing a new beer all the time because each one is subtly different, and you want to explore these new flavors. How does this brewery take on the same style? How is this pale ale different from this pale ale? And you can really start picking those out, and I think that's what makes it, I mean, craft beer almost more of a hobby than just something you drink, you know.
Yeah, because even if the grain bill is all very similar,
right?
The craft brewers are going to use different styles of hops.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Sierra Nevada is known for Cascade hops.
Exactly.
Sam Adams here says that they're using Noble hops.
Exactly.
And I don't know if it says here. It says they're using Morris Otter malt, which is an English pale malt. Doesn't say what kind of hops they're using on here.
I think that Morris Otter malt is what's giving it that that European. It really does have a European malt kind of characteristic to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the Morris Otter. But
so what's next?
Next we have another West Coast beer. This is Black Butte Porter from Deschutes Brewing and up in Bend, Oregon. Now this beer is one of the ones that I really got me into craft beer.
Me too.
You know, I really like this one. They do their Mirror Pond Pale Ale, but we have quite a lot of pale ales, so we want to break it up.
Yeah, so I think Black Butte is the one that put them on the map.
Seriously.
This was a really different beer at the time. So these guys started in 1988.
Right.
By the name of started in
Fish.
Started in 1988 by a man by the name of Greg Fish.
Greg Fish, right.
Yeah, started a brew pub up in Bend, Oregon, and they released Black Butte Porter. And Black Butte is the name of a mountain range.
Yeah,
or something
exactly.
Like
it's just a mountain up there. Same, I believe Deschutes is
Deschutes is a river.
Oh, it's a river. Okay, sorry. But natural geological formations. So yeah, this one really gained acceptance, I think, because this proved that dark beers don't have to be bitter. Dark beers don't have to be harsh. Dark beers don't have to be difficult to drink or whatever. So this, I think, really challenged a lot of opinions.
And this beer truly is amazing.
Yeah.
So it smells like roasted coffee, dark chocolate,
rich malts. I mean, if you've ever been in a home brew shop and you've, gone in and people are getting their grain bills filled out and they're getting that grain mill, boom, this aroma. As
soon as someone starts to mill roasted malt.
Yeah, takes you right back to a homebrew shop. So
yeah, so this beer is completely full of flavor.
Totally
really full bodied. Has roasted flavors going on. There's some hops that come through. So it's really well rounded beer, very balanced beer.
Yes. There's some chocolate, some coffee, some roasted malts, and there is a bit of roasted malt bitterness towards the back of the mouth, but at the same time, it's really pleasant. It's not too much. It doesn't really dry you out.
It's still balanced with a little malt sweetness too.
Yeah, this is just a great beer, great daily drinker. So, and then last but certainly not least, we have Rogue, and this is their American Amber Ale that we're drinking here. Kind of their flagship has become Dead Guy Ale. I mean, that's what I've known them for, but
the Amber and the Golden Ale were the first beers they started brewing, and I think they still brew the Golden Ale today. Yeah, it's still on their list. So,
and they're up in Oregon as well.
Yeah, so now they're in, I believe, Newport, Oregon. They started in '88 in Ashland, Oregon, and the gentleman that started that company was Jack Joyce and Bob
Woodell.
By Jack Joyce and Bob Woodell.
Right. So Rogue's gone on to do some tremendous
The great thing about Rogue is they've got an amazing brewmaster, and he brews just like you would a home brew. So their beer is a little bit of chill haze, it's unfiltered, unpasteurized beer, it's real beer.
Yeah.
And all of their beers are like that. I mean, no matter what it is, whether it's really pale lager style beer or whether it's a really black stout or whatever, they all have this really raw, true form craft beer.
And I think they were one of the ones that I first saw doing all kinds of interesting ingredients. I mean, they have their soba beer.
Oh yeah.
And they
juniper and
they started really doing some, their hazelnut porter
and they do make their own spirits too, and I want to say that they were one of the first distilleries, craft distilleries too.
Yeah. So I haven't actually tried this one, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Real full malt flavor.
Yeah.
Not too much hops going on. A lot of
nice and mellow.
Caramel malt flavors.
Yeah. It's
again
pretty mellow.
All of these beers
really
are very drinkable.
Exactly. I mean, all of these are
because we're drinking them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these would probably be the ones that if you went to a bar or what have you, and all they stocked were the basic stuff, any of these would be a welcome change, and you would definitely take them head and shoulders over anything else that was available, unless it was a bigger craft beer. But there's still a lot of places out there that just stock the basics and the macrobrews, and we're working on that.
It's really aggravating when you want to go out and get a beer and you're
serious
like, Heineken?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Or you go into a place and
it's $7.
Yeah, and they advertise that they've got a really extensive wine or beer list, and you look at it and it's basically just Heineken. Maybe you might have a Newcastle or a Guinness if you're lucky, but they think that that's really esoteric and weird, or a Blue Moon.
They need to watch American beer.
Serious. So, from this humble beginning, these pale ales and lagers, came the craft beer revolution that we're now enjoying. And so we take a moment to reflect and go back and revisit some of these to keep them fresh in our minds and make sure that we understand and appreciate the origins of the American craft beer that we know and love.
Cheers.
that would be difficult to do. We'd probably lead to breaking